What if the secret to your future success, I mean, the genuine breakthrough you've been waiting for, isn't about learning more, but about strategically unlearning?
That's a really simple question, but it's also deeply provocative, and it's the foundation of our deep dive today. I mean, we're living in a time that demands just uh, continuous evolution.
Constant.
Yeah, constant, and it can be painful. Technology shifts, faster than we can keep up. Markets change overnight, and yet so many of us are weighed down.
Mm-hmm.
We're weighed down by old ideas, by habits that probably stopped being useful, what, 3 years ago?
Yeah, at least, yeah.
So we've pulled together a really fascinating stack of material on this. It's centered around what some thinkers are calling the architecture of unlearning. Our mission today is to filter this for you, to understand how this process of deliberate shedding becomes arguably the most powerful tool for growth in 2026 and beyond.
And I think it's crucial to say right away that this isn't passive.
When we hear unlearning, we might think of, forgetting where you put your keys or letting a skill just fade away over time.
Yeah, like my high school French.
Exactly. But the sources we looked at are clear. This is the opposite of that. It's a precise, active, and sometimes pretty demanding process.
Yeah.
You are intentionally making space.
Okay, let's unpack that word intentionality, because that feels like the pivot point here.
It is.
So if forgetting is this passive decay that just happens to you, what makes unlearning so different? What are we demolishing exactly?
Well, the sources point to three main targets:
Yeah.
outdated assumptions, ingrained habits, and limiting beliefs.
Okay.
And that's where the precision comes in. You're not trying to, purge your entire memory.
Right.
It's more like you're uninstalling an old, obsolete operating system that's just slowing down your whole machine.
Ah, okay. That's a great analogy.
Let's start with those three because they can feel a bit abstract.
Yeah, give them some teeth.
Okay, so an outdated assumption. This could be a core belief in your industry that worked for 20 years, but is now, well, it's now actively hurting you.
For instance.
For instance, the assumption that customers will always prioritize brand loyalty over transparent pricing. That might have guided all your marketing spend in 2018.
Sure.
Today, that framework is cognitive deadweight.
So it's not just wrong, it's a framework that used to be right, but it became a liability.
Precisely.
Hmm?
And then you have ingrained habits.
Okay.
These are the things that fire off automatically without conscious thought. Maybe it's a project management ritual or always starting a pitch deck the same way.
Or relying only on email for
Yeah.
everything.
When a quick call would save hours, these habits create predictability, but they throttle innovation because you're not thinking critically anymore.
I can totally see that. You finish a task quickly because the habit is efficient, but you never stop to ask if the task itself is even necessary anymore.
You've optimized the obsolete. Exactly.
Wow.
And the final one, and maybe the most insidious, is limiting beliefs.
The internal voice.
The internal voice, the one that says, I'm just not a good public speaker, or our company is too small to compete with them. These are self-imposed shackles.
And unlearning them is. It's not just about getting rid of the thought, is it?
No, it's about deconstructing why you adopted that belief to begin with.
Yeah.
That's how you can rewrite the narrative.
Okay, that intentional demolition, as you called it, it sounds, frankly, exhausting.
It can be.
If you're a high performer, your success is built on the knowledge and habits you have. Why risk that stability? Isn't there a danger we could shed something valuable by mistake?
That is a fantastic question, and the sources really dig into it. The risk of passive forgetting is losing what you need. The benefit of active unlearning is choosing what you keep.
Huh.
This is why it's an architecture. It's a precise process. You're not trying to tear down the whole house. You're just removing the outdated interior walls that are stopping you from expanding.
Okay.
The sources call it creating literal cognitive and emotional space. Think of your mind like a packed library. If you just keep adding new books, new learning, but you never cycle out the old out-of-date ones, you run out of shelf space. Finding anything useful becomes impossible. Unlearning is that strategic reorganization. It creates the bandwidth for new, adaptive thinking. It's a quiet revolution because the shift is internal. You move from accumulation to adaptation.
From accumulation to adaptation. That's a powerful reframe. So once we commit to this, what are the results? We're talking about more than just being more efficient.
Oh, much more.
Let's get into what the sources call the renaissance of the mind. What are these profound impacts?
The first one, and often the most dramatic, is just this incredible unlocking of creativity.
The highest leverage point.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The claim is that shedding these old models unlocks unparalleled creativity. And this isn't just, marketing fluff. It's a direct result of removing constraints you put on yourself.
Help me visualize that. I get that an old assumption can block a new solution, but why does just removing it suddenly spark unparalleled creativity? Why is it so powerful?
Because innovation is so often about combining things in a way that the old rules just didn't allow.
Right.
So let's use an analogy. If the only tool you've ever used is a hammer, every single problem starts to look like a nail.
Sure.
You'll become a genius with a hammer, but you will never invent the screwdriver or the welding torch. Because your core assumption is problems require pounding.
I see where you're going with this.
The moment you unlearn that assumption, your mind is suddenly free to see completely different solutions. The old framework was the block, and the vacuum it leaves just pulls in unconventional ideas that were invisible before.
So those genius breakthrough moments, they're really just moments where someone successfully shed a belief that everyone else was still holding on to.
Exactly. That's the actionable insight for you listening right now.
Yeah.
Your current successful mental model is probably the single biggest thing preventing your next huge idea.
Wow.
Unlearning gives you permission. Permission to see new combinations, which leads to breakthroughs you just never saw coming.
That idea that old knowledge becomes this kind of cognitive inertia that slows down future progress, that's really compelling. But here's where it gets even more interesting for me.
Yeah.
The sources draw a really strong line between unlearning and emotional growth. They talk about enhancing EQ, building deep resilience. I wouldn't intuitively connect that. How does that mechanism work?
This is one of the deepest insights, I think. It shows that our reliance on static knowledge is really an emotional safety mechanism,
A safety blanket.
a total safety blanket. If I have a rule book, a fixed set of best practices, I feel confident. I feel secure because I know what to do.
Right. When X happens, I do Y.
Exactly. But the problem is when the world shifts, and it always does, and X no longer follows that rule, that reliance becomes a liability. Your security is just yanked away. And that leads to stress, anxiety, decision paralysis. You become brittle.
That's fascinating. So the stress isn't from the change itself, but from the fact that your existing knowledge can't handle the change?
Precisely. And the mechanism for emotional growth here is, it's actually beautifully simple. Unlearning forces you to become more comfortable with ambiguity and change.
You're shedding the need for that static rulebook.
You are consciously choosing to exist in that space of, I don't know yet. You're building emotional muscle memory for uncertainty.
Like exposure therapy for the professional mind.
That's a perfect way to put it. Every time you navigate an ambiguous situation without the old map, you build that adaptive resilience. You move from saying, I rely on these facts to feel safe, to I rely on my ability to adapt to feel safe.
And that second one is so much more powerful in the world we live in now.
Exponentially more.
It transitions you from being rigid to being fluid. And that emotional shift leads perfectly into the final major impact the sources hit on, which is increased personal and professional agility. Everyone talks about agility in 2026. It's a huge buzzword. But what does unlearning actually do to make that concept real?
Agility, in this context, is just the practical, observable application of that comfort with ambiguity we were just talking about.
It's the output.
It's the output. The sources define it as the ability to quickly pivot and thrive in a constantly evolving world.
Let's ground that. Give me a real-world scenario.
Okay. Many organizations are grappling with AI tools right now. If a manager has an ingrained habit, a belief that efficiency comes from human oversight and paper trails,
Their cognitive inertia is going to force a crash landing instead of a smooth pivot.
Exactly. But the manager who has already unlearned that, who has shed the assumption that only paper ensures compliance, they're adaptable. They're ready to experiment. They can adopt new tools faster than the competition.
So unlearning doesn't just enable the pivot.
It makes the pivot smooth and proactive. It allows you to anticipate where the world is going and release the anchors before the storm hits, not while you're already being dragged off course.
So what does this all mean for you listening? We started with that provocative question, is success about unlearning? And I think we found a really clear answer. This idea of strategic letting go, it isn't just philosophical, it is an architecture for clearing the path toward real breakthroughs.
Hmm.
This deep dive shows that intentionally shedding those outdated ideas, the bad assumptions, the rigid habits, it's not just a suggestion. It is a powerful, active tool for growth. It's your cue to shift focus from just hoarding knowledge to prioritizing adaptability.
And if that's true, if strategic unlearning really is the way forward, then the most crucial step is the one you take right now, self-identification. We spent all this time talking about how old models block creativity and agility, so let's make it actionable. If you could identify just one specific outdated idea or ingrained habit that is currently weighing you down, what would it be? What is that one successful belief you hold today that if you truly, really let it go, would create the space for the breakthrough you've been waiting for? Identify that one piece of cognitive inertia, and that is where the quiet revolution of unlearning can truly begin.